Community Viewpoint.
Hello and welcome to Community Viewpoint. I'm your host for this segment, Maria Guerra, and we're joined tonight by Carl Milberg from RWM Home Loans. Hello, welcome, Carl.
Hi, welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And due to the situation now, we're joined by Zoom, but you service Las Vegas and Pahrump, so right now you're in Vegas, but so this makes it a little easier for us to meet.
Yeah, they've really changed the mortgage industry over the last so many years, but we really can work from anywhere to get loans done and done quickly. Myself and my wife, we lend in multiple states. Right now, Arizona, California, and Nevada, but we live here in Las Vegas. But yeah, a lot of great loan programs out there, and interest rates have dropped substantially recently.
That is awesome. So really, the time for buyers if they want to buy a home and they find something they like, it's really a good time.
Well, it's probably the same out in Pahrump right now, but especially here in Las Vegas, if we're hearing from the property managers that if they go out to rent a property, number one, the tenant has to have great credit, but number two, they have to show a paycheck stub that shows 3 times net what the rent's going to be. So it's easier to get a mortgage now. Yeah. So, and as low as interest rates have gotten from what the rents are on properties, your payment's going to be lower on a mortgage. So if you've got a job and, you know, it's all based on income, asset, credit, but I've never seen a better time to buy than right now.
What questions would you have someone ask, or what would be some main things for them to look for when they're starting a home search or when they're starting the process of getting a mortgage?
Well, everything is based on income, asset, credit, debt to income ratio, loan to value, and then having realistic expectations and realizations throughout the process. So the first thing that borrowers need to do is to get their all their income and asset documentation together. Now, some loan programs might only require the last 2 years W-2s, but we always need to make sure on a mortgage that there isn't a debt owed to the IRS. So we'll always ask for 2 years tax returns. It's better to give the loan officer a complete picture, and if we need it, then we have it. But when we go in for final underwriting, we might only need the W-2s or recent pay stub and verification of employment, things of that nature. But we still need how a tax return was filed, because we have to execute a 4506T, which gets the transcripts and record of account from the IRS. And that's to make sure there's no debt owed to the IRS, or if there is, it has to be on an approved monthly payment on an approved payment plan with the IRS. Now, to go back to that, if someone's thinking about buying a property now or in the near future, or if they own a property and they're thinking about refinancing in the near future, they want to have a 3 merge file credit report pulled for mortgage purposes. Those credit reports last for 90 days until they need to be repulled, but some people can get their credit scores in a much better position in a very short period of time. One trick that people can use is if they have credit cards, they should use the credit cards, but make multiple payments on it throughout the month, and that pushes the algorithm between the credit card company and the credit bureaus, and it pushes your scores up faster. The only people I've seen with over 800 mid-FICO scores, that's one thing that they do. They use their credit cards. They might use them 10 times in the month, but pay them off 10 times in the month. So that's one little trick there. But when you're getting ready to do a mortgage, you gather up your paycheck stubs, your tax returns, your W-2s, and get with the good lender, have them pull your credit report, because you might need to get on a strategy to get yourself in a much better position for a mortgage, or you could be ready now. The bottom line is, the higher the credit score, more loan programs open up or lower interest rates are given, and that's what everybody wants. Right now, if someone has kind of a decent credit score, and we're talking 640, 650 and above on government loans, they can have interest rates under 2.5% for a 30-year fixed. It's ridiculous how low they are right now. So
Really low.
so going down and getting pre-qualified, looking at their income asset credit. Now, some of the issues that people have is how income is looked at. So a lot of times people have a tendency of overinflating how much they really think they make or how much would be verifiable. So self-employed people have a really tough time because we can gross up mileage, depreciation, depletion, and one-time business expenses, but that's it. Otherwise, it's what is on your Schedule C or your K1 corporate returns, your bottom line income, and then grossing up business mileage, depletion, depreciation. Now, some people that are self-employed, if they have a business account and their business vehicles are being paid for out of the business account, then we can even gross that back up. So that's pretty cool. Now, people that get bonuses and or overtime, you need year-end pay stubs for the 2 previous years to show that you've continued working overtime for at least 2 years to average it out. You just can't factor in overtime and bonuses now if you haven't been getting it for the 2 previous years prior to that. So there's a lot of little intricacies involved in getting ready for a great mortgage, and it's good to have it looked at right away to make sure you're either in a great position now or you might need to do something to get yourself in a better position.
So you mentioned refinancing. So is this something somebody could do not just to get ready for a first mortgage, but if they're interested in refinancing, they can also get this stuff together and work to get a better mortgage than they have?
Well, there's numerous ways to refinance. So if someone has an FHA loan and they've made 6 posted payments or 210 days, but at least 6 posted payments to the investor, now they will release the FHA case number to do what's called a streamline. So if someone's interest rate, if their credit score is decent and their interest rate, you have to lower the interest rate by at least 0.5%. The nice thing about an FHA streamline is it's very inexpensive. So you can only increase the loan amount by the payoff on the loan, funding in the new upfront mortgage insurance premium minus the refund on the existing mortgage insurance premium that's refunded, and then some of the per diem. Otherwise, that's it. The rest of the closing costs have to be paid by the lender, and you're going to come in out of pocket either your current mortgage payment or less, but then you'll miss one payment to go in to get you in arrears. That's how the banks make their money on interest. If you have a VA loan, you can do a VA IRRRL, which is an interest rate reduction loan. That's very cheap. No appraisals needed on either the FHA Streamline or the VA IRRRL. But I like to tell people everything is based on terms. Terms are the most important thing. So let's say, for example, somebody bought a property and they got a really decent interest rate 2 years ago and it's FHA and the rate's like 3.25. Okay, chances are it's not going to be that low, but just as an example, well, FHA loans carry mortgage insurance for the life of the loan. So let's say they have 20% equity now, their credit's good, their income's okay, and they could qualify to go in to do a full refinance to a conventional loan. Well, even if the interest rate stays the same on the conventional loan as what they're paying now, they should still do the refinance because now they have 20% equity and they won't have private mortgage insurance. So then their payment would go down anyway. It's a no-brainer. And then they're going to miss one payment to get into arrears. So the recapture time is ridiculous. So when you look at a total cost analysis for doing your current mortgage against doing a refinance, whether it makes sense, you're literally saving 50, 70, 80, 100,000 over the life of the loan. It really is a no-brainer. So some people look at a loan, if you do a regular full refinance, you're going to have to create your new impound account, so you'll get refunded from your existing impound account from the loan that's being paid off. But the closing costs get thrown into the loan, usually the equity in the property. You put it in the loan amount, so you're doing it no money out of pocket. It goes into the loan. You miss at least one payment or sometimes two, and you lower your payment. It really is a no-brainer on that. Now, some people might want to go to lower terms, whether it's 20 years, 25 years, 15 years, but it's really good to take a look at that, and looking at a total cost analysis presentation is a great way to go to see if it makes sense for any kind of a refinance.
That's awesome. I feel like people are going to want to watch this show over and over. How would somebody get a hold of you if you were to help them do any of these things?
Well, I'm really good with email. My email is Carl, CARLM, @rwmloans.com. Or you call my cell, 702-504-6622. Now, what I always do is somebody reaches out to me and they're looking to do a mortgage down in the near future. I send them an email with the needs list because, you know, we're going to need income, asset, credit, the whole 9 yards. And in my email, there's a hyperlink that says apply now. Now, mortgage companies, we have to protect people's information. We have a huge fiduciary responsibility to protect people's information. So we can't talk electronically with anyone's personal information until someone's done what's called e-consent. And then if they click on my apply now button, it doesn't obligate them to anything, but what it will do is take care of that e-consent so we can talk electronically, but then they can fill out the uniform residential loan application, which will allow me to pull the credit report and see how they're sitting, and then I can draw up a total cost analysis as to what their options would be. And there's numerous programs out there. There's grant funds programs that covers down payment, because you always have two sides to a transaction. If it's a purchase, you have your down payment, that's one side, and then you have your closing cost, that's the other side. And if you're doing a purchase transaction with a 640 plus mid FICO score, there are quite a few programs out there that'll cover your down payment. You can't own a home for the last 3 years on most of them, or on one of them, you can't have owned a home ever, but it's a good way to get into a property. Now, the nice thing is I do a lot of loans in Pahrump as well, and here in Las Vegas. So most of the deals that I'm seeing, even the deals that we're getting over from California, we're seeing the sellers agreeing to paying closing costs. So now closing costs, it usually gets a little bit cheaper when you get a loan over 300,000, but if you're down around 200, 250, closing cost on a purchase could be 2 to 2.5%, sometimes a little bit more depending on the HOA transfer fees. So what we've been seeing is sellers agreeing to paying closing costs, and more importantly, we've been seeing the appraisals come in just take, for example, you go out and buy a home for 250,000 and the sellers agreed to pay 5,000 in your closing cost, but then the house only appraises at 245. Now you've paid for the appraisal and then the house doesn't appraise. The first thing the sellers are going to take away is the seller paid closing cost. But what's been really nice, you get a realtor that's going to do the work up front. You make sure the value looks really good. The appraisal comes in. Well, that comes in at 250. The sellers pay 5,000 for your closing cost. That's 5,000 less out of your pocket. And when you factor out how much your payment difference is because you paid 250 instead of 245, having to pay your $5,000 out of pocket, you're only going to save it costs you like $6 or $7 a month for $5,000. So that's a recapture time when you're looking at your viable options to get into a property. So all of these factors come into play. Some people get really hung up on rates, but terms and recapture time are more important. So I mentioned earlier about a down payment assistance program, these grant funds programs. Yeah. Well, banks found a way to make more money. So even though it's not a grant, it's not free money, but what they do is they give you a grant. It will be a silent second that'll go against your property. Some are 3 years, some are 5 years, some are 15 years, some are even 30-year silent seconds that you only have to pay back a portion or all of it if you sell or refinance in that time. But they charge a higher interest rate for it. But here's a good example. Let's say someone has a great job now. Maybe they just got put on a new salary. They got a promotion, but they just don't have the money in the bank. to cover the down payment. So instead, they go out and buy a property for $250,000. They get a grant funds for the $8750 that covers their down payment. Now, if they did a regular FHA loan on that $250,000 property, maybe the payment would be like $1,170. But instead, they do the grant funds and the interest rate's a little bit higher. Now the payment goes to $1,250, $1,280. But they didn't have to come out of pocket $8750. So that's recapture time. Does it make sense to move in now? Who knows what interest rates are going to be in a year, and can they really save up the money? Some people are like, well, I'll just save money and buy in 6 months. And 6 months later, life keeps throwing curves their way and they don't have money saved up. So sometimes those down payment assistance programs are good. Yes, the payment's a little bit higher, but they didn't have to come out of pocket to get into it.
And the difference in the payment usually doesn't make the mortgage go over.
Well, the recapture time's about the same.
Yeah.
When you look at the recapture time versus the interest rate difference, it's the same money out of pocket. It's just you didn't have to have the money to get into a house.
Yeah.
You
And
can't do
it's
that
still,
on a rental.
and it's still cheaper than renting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, usually it is, big time, especially with the way rents are now. They've gone through the roof. Yeah.
Just as a question, what do you think is the factor that made the rents skyrocket so much to where?
No supply and demand.
Okay.
Yeah. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Supply and demand.
Okay.
And then also what made rents get harder to get into is the ability for people with the COVID shutdown, people not being able to be evicted. And because let's face it, everybody, if you loan somebody $200,000 and they're supposed to pay you $1,000 a month and they just didn't want to pay you for 3 months or a year, is that okay with you?
Yeah.
That would be okay, would it? But right now, people are for putting off the paying rent. They're getting forbearances on mortgages. That's going to come back and haunt people. That's not a good thing. And we really want to find a way to make our payments monthly. So landlords, property managers are hugely scared right now with the COVID shutdown on people invoking their right to be able to not make their monthly payments. So now they've tightened it up even worse than ever on who can rent a property. So we've got a ton of people moving out here that fully planned on renting for the first 6 months or a year. Now it's easier for them to buy. And they, in my opinion, someone should buy anyway, right away, if they can. And it's harder to get a rent than it is to buy. So why not buy?
Yeah.
Okay. So I believe that after the COVID shutdown and everything gets back to normal, maybe they'll ease up restrictions, but some supply and demand, rentals are flying off the shelf, but they've made it really expensive and hard for people to get into right now.
We're seeing that here in Pahrump too. We're seeing the rents go up, but we are seeing a lot of properties that are available for sale. So I think a lot of people are looking to buy. And one of the questions that we have for Pahrump is there is a lot of manufactured homes out here. Is there different qualifications for manufactured homes?
Yeah, manufactured homes are a lot harder to get loans for, and that's unfortunately because traditionally manufactured housing is a much riskier investment because loans get sold off and put into a mortgage-backed security instrument, whether it goes to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or just a private portfolio product. But manufactured housing overall performs worse out of almost all the type of loans that are out there. So our company, we lend on everything. We're very aggressive at RWM Home Loans. We're master servicers. We own paper, but we also have lines with many other banks. Even though the loan originates RWM, it might be going to one of our other setup that we're with. Like I can't remember, there's like 20 of them that we have lined up with us, plus our own paper. However, manufactured housing, the credit score, it either went up, it's like 650 and above, it could be 640, but I think it's 650 now for the credit score, but we have to have double wide, and it all has to be converted to real property. And a lot of times it can't be older than 1979. It might be 80 now, But so it's got to be a newer manufactured home. It's got to be converted to real property, and it's got to be a double wide.
Well, that's good,
Okay?
because I think a lot of the situations here in Pahrump, I think most of the manufactured homes are newer. So people watching, they shouldn't be afraid to go apply and try to buy a manufactured home then.
Oh, absolutely not. They could be great steals. I think manufactured homes are beautiful the way they're built. Yeah, they're great. And then you just got to make sure. Now, I always recommend that people, you can structure your purchase contracts however you want it. It's all negotiable. So you got to be careful. I'm not practicing as a realtor, but you got to make sure that it's got the HUD certificate on the manufactured home. And it might need, if it's not there, you might need an engineer cert. And to get that could cost you $450 to $700. So you could even,
Oh, no,
those are something that if someone really wanted to sell their manufactured home, they should have all that stuff lined up ahead of time to know exactly where they're sitting for everybody that wants to buy the property. So if I owned a manufactured home that I was going to put up for sale, I'd want to make sure that my HUD certificate was, I think it needs to be the 2011 version or newer, but you should make sure that you've got your engineer cert and your HUD cert is new enough that can be used for any buyer that comes in, FHA, VA, conventional. Obviously cash, then they might not care, but if you were paying cash, wouldn't you care? And then also for the buyer, if you're negotiating in the purchase contract, you could demand that those are provided at seller's expense. If you don't put that in there, you're the one that wants to buy, so then you got to pay for it. And all that stuff adds up because an appraisal's even pretty expensive for a manufactured home.
yeah, so that's a really good question. If you didn't get that and you're just now tuning in, replay us, KPVM-25 on YouTube, Community Viewpoint, and either type in Maria Guerra or Carl Milberg, and you can hear that again, because that seems like the one of the most important questions that you want to ask if you're buying a manufactured home. Give me your information again.
Yeah.
We actually filmed 2 segments, so you're going to be seeing this show in 2 segments, and we're going to put a tagline at the beginning of the first part of this, that you're going to see this show in 2 segments, because you are an encyclopedia of information, mister.
Oh, thank you very much, Maria. Your show's awesome.
Give me your contact information one more time so everybody can, if you're
Okay, you can reach me at, my cell phone is 702-504-6622. And my email address is carlm@rwmloans.com. That's CARLM@rwmloans.com. Send me an email, tell me you're interested in getting ready for a mortgage now or in the near future, and I'll send you out the needs list, or give me a call. Okay, and I wish everybody happiness and health. Be safe, and let's wear masks out there.
Thank you so much, Carl. That was awesome. And so now I think that was a show that we're going to have to watch again, just because it was really educational, a lot of information, a lot of good questions to get out there and ask your realtors, and things that you have to be ready to do even before you start searching, just so you're prepared. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Maria.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you, Carl.
Bye.